and basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience.
The Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman Podcast, brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time.
Hey, it's that time for the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman Tanguay Along for the Ride pod, brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Okay, guys, at the time that we're getting together, this evening the Cavaliers will be playing the Celtics. So we have a time-sensitive situation. But I have both of you here, and your schedules are tight this week, so I want to get your thoughts. Bob, just, again, your thoughts on the Cavaliers and the way they have come out of the gate this year.
The interesting thing about them is that often when the teams, and the Celtics are Exhibit A because it's happened twice in the last, since 21st century, there's some prominent addition that has juiced the team, that changes things and enhances the situation. There isn't a prominent addition to this team this year. This is the same bunch, except there is one prominent addition. It's the coach. Yes. And he's getting a lot of credit in the world right now for what's going on here. Now let's go back. This team has been good since 21-22. They were 44-38, followed by 51-31, followed by 48-34 last year, and gave the Celtics a lot of trouble even without a key player. They've been hanging around, knocking on the door there, and now they got a coach to tie it all together. That's the interesting thing about them. And their backcourt right now of Mitchell and Garland is averaging a combined 45 points a game. And reminds me of the situation with the 71-72 Lakers when Goodrich and West each averaged 25 a game. We haven't seen anything like that since. But this is the most potent backcourt in the league in terms of pure scoring. I wouldn't trade them for our backcourt. No. But these guys must be honored. So that's the thing about it is it just, and I'm going to throw this into Jeff's lap now. Is it just Kenny Atkinson? It's got some secret juice for these guys, or what's going on?
I mean, I think that's part of it. I've talked to some people in the organization, close to the organization, that will say, like, Kenny Atkinson, what he's done, he's mellowed out over spending the last couple of years on the bench with prominent guys who have done it before, Steve Kerr being one of them. He's mellowed, from his days with the Nets. And I think he has learned how to handle some of these guys, right? Like every little detail isn't quite as important to him. A guy maybe showing up late for, a flight or a bus or whatever it is like that. From what I'm told, that used to really, really get under his skin and he couldn't handle it. Now he's matured and understands how to deal with the egos and the personalities on this team. And frankly, there aren't a lot of egos. That's the beauty of this team that Kobe Altman and Mike Angie have put together. Like, I know all these guys. Like Donovan Mitchell's the biggest ego you got, and he's not that big of an ego by NBA, star standards. Evan Mobley doesn't say two words. Like the easiest dude ever. Jared Allen's a little bit eclectic, but like a good guy. Max Strus, George Niang, we know them. Darius Garland. Like you go down the list, this is similar in some ways to the Celtics guys, right? In that they don't have a lot of assholes. I'm not sure they have an asshole on the team. I think in a way they don't have any issues to deal with. And now you've got Darius Garland happy again. Remember, a year ago, there was some rumblings from the agent, from Rich Paul, that Darius Garland wanted out because he didn't want to play alongside Donovan Mitchell. That has been rectified, and now they're humming, man. They are humming.
And I know you are a charter member of the Evan Mobley fan club, right?
Love him. Yes. Love him. Hey, did you see this stat the other day? I tweeted it. The winningest player over the last, I don't know how long it was in the NBA, is none other than Methuen's own George Niang.
I love that. That's great. And we must say, and one-time podcast guest of right. Ours. So
we got to get him on again. We'll try to get him on again at some point. But yeah, I'm not sure the Cavs are. I know they're not at the Celtics level. But Kenny Atkinson has been the breath of fresh air that this group needed. They're playing faster. And again, the name we haven't mentioned, guys, that's been huge off the bench is Ty Jerome. He's been awesome for Cleveland.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way, guys. I'm sorry, Bob, but I was going to say, we talked about the Knicks quite a bit leading up to the season. We're going to get to the Sixers, how they're struggling. And Cleveland wasn't in the conversation. And Jeff's right. I mean, no one is at the level of the Celtics. But can they keep this up? Have the Cavs shown us enough, Bob, for us to believe they deserve a seat at the table when we discuss contenders at the end of the year?
Well, they're leading the league in scoring and in point differential. I mean, this has been a really impressive performance. And let's be honest, it's one of the 4 greatest starts in NBA history. So I think attention must be paid. I mean, I'm going to this got my attention, 15-0, and this is only one of the 4 teams ever done it. And so
that's crazy to me. Isn't that crazy? Think about that, Bob.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I mean, this is that I'm impressed, and I like it, and we've identified they seem to get it. That the way the Celtics got it, they got it. They are playing to win basketball games, not to please themselves, and are getting another thing, nice, consistent nightly contribution off the bench from LeVert and Jerome. Well, LeVert's averaging 11.8, Jerome's averaging 10.7, which matches his career high, by the way. I remember there's a guy I loved him in college. I remember he caught my eye at Virginia, and LeVert's been a quality scorer. LeVert has twice scored 20 points a game in this league. So they got some. That bench is that's all you need. You got 2 guys like that. That's damn good. And so
you don't have guys. Max Strus has been hurt, so they don't even have him. He hasn't played yet. So their bench is going to be better than the Celtics bench when Max Strus comes back. It's going to be better than the Celtics bench. I know that may be great. Now, again, obviously Porzingis isn't back yet, so that's the difference. But I would take Cleveland's bench and its depth of the bench over the Celtics bench when everybody's healthy. The difference is obviously, the Cavs don't have Jason Tatum. Donovan Mitchell is not Jason Tatum, and that's the biggest difference for me. I don't think the Cavs can win the whole thing with Donovan Mitchell as your number 1 guy.
It's hard to win when your best player is a guard. It's hard. We've talked about this previously. The one
like
argument
a 6'2" guard, not a Kobe, right? Like if you have a 6'5",
we're talking about
Kobe and Jordan's they're
We've talked about this to go back 45, 50 years, and the one example you might be able to cite is Isaiah Thomas with the Pistons. That he, as a small guard who was the best
true
player
guard, not a swingman type. Yeah.
And that's the one example. That other than that, you can't find one. John Stockton couldn't do it. The other guys nobody else has been able to, but he's been able to.
Robertson, Big O needed Kareem, right?
Well, Big O was 6'5", and he was also a triple-doubling rebounding, force. He wasn't just that he's not in that discussion. We're talking about the Iversons of the world. Iverson didn't do it either. He put up some staggering numbers, but he couldn't do it. It's hard. And it's very hard. And if your best player is your point guard who is at 6'1" or 2, it's very, very difficult. So, but I just love the balance. I keep staring at these numbers here: 24.6, 21.4, Mobley 18.1, Allen 14.5, LeVert 11.8, Jerome 10.7. That's where they are as we speak, and that's really, really exemplary balance.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. They got over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, so you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get into the action in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay even if one of your players gets hurt or injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Sign up today and give $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. Think Steph Curry will get more than 4 3-pointers this week, or Anthony Edwards more than 27 points? Cook up some hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. Get your crew to run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And, you know, some of the Prize Picks you could be looking at: Luka Doncic for more than 31.5 points, Steph Curry for more than 4 3-pointers, Anthony Davis more than 11 boards, the freak Giannis for more than 29.5 points. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Sixers, because we go from one team that's on their way up to one team that's really struggling. At the time of recording, they're a mess. But, Jeff, when is it? You know, it's early. We understand that. But we didn't think it would be this bad as far as developing chemistry and with the injuries. You know, when's the drop? When's the deadline here that they got to get it together? Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, this is ugly. Well, it's ugly because of, obviously, now you've got Joel Embiid sitting out all these games. And in Philly, the one thing you can't do is appear soft. Because if you appear soft, those fans are done with you in Philly. And I said it when they got Paul George. Like, I just didn't like it. I didn't like that addition. And I feel like, you know, to me, the biggest problem, you know, is putting together these teams. And Daryl Morey's been known to do this, guys. It's like he plays like fantasy basketball, right? And he just throws guys together and hopes that the chemistry works and hopes that the pieces fit. And that's not how you build a championship team. That's how you build, like, contend. Yeah, you can be a contender. You throw these dudes together. But Paul George, at this stage of his career, it's not going to work in Philly, guys. It's just not.
I thought they had, you know, quietly enhanced their depth, but they're getting minimal contribution from these guys that I thought were going to help them, namely Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, and even, of course, Kyle Lowry's up there now. But they're getting, you know, I thought those were sneakily good things. But the one guy that's given them something is Drummond, who can still rebound. He's averaging 9 rebounds a game in 22 minutes. He still can do that. But I thought they had, you know, I thought they had a good offseason, quite frankly. But then you start. But I wasn't as down on George. I wasn't really down on him at all as you are. And then it's a whole Embiid thing, and the way Embiid has gone off the rails personally, as well as it's a mess. In case anybody doesn't realize, you have people, you know, they're 2-11. They're tied with Washington for the worst record in the conference.
I know.
And I mean, that's how bad it is. And they're last in scoring in the whole league. They are last.
And Bob, here's the thing. We both love Tyrese Maxey, right? But if Tyrese Maxey has to be the guy and he doesn't have help, he's going to shoot 41% from the field and 29% from 3, which is what he's shooting right now. And there's too much on him. There's weight. He's a great number 2 guy. He can't be your number 1.
No, you're right. I got it. To be specific, he's shooting 286. 286 from the.
And what's Paul George shooting? What's Paul George shooting? Not much better, I bet.
I don't know.
It's not good.
Surprisingly, they're a mess.
No, it's. I mean, I can't imagine the atmosphere down there in Philly. And
it's not good. I mean, well, there's been.
What do you do? What do you do, Gary? Do you just say, hey, you know what? Like you said, at Christmas,
I would trade Embiid. I mean, I just don't think it's going to work for whatever reason. That they haven't been able to put it together down there. He had a run-in with a reporter. I just don't think. I think he's a great player. I think and I know that they're paying him a ton of money. He needs a new environment. He needs a new coach. I don't know how it works, but I would deal him. If I'm Embiid, I would want to be traded.
I would too. I would build around Maxey and see if somehow you can tank this year.
Right.
Honestly, I would tank this year.
Yeah.
Get picks, tank, try to get Cooper Flag, or, again, this draft, guys, isn't all about Cooper Flag either. This is a very, very strong draft at the top with Ace Bailey at Rutgers. You got a kid at Texas, Trey Johnson, who's terrific. You got VJ Edgecombe at Baylor. there's a lot on the table at the top of this draft. So if I'm Philly, it's kind of like the Patriots for me. Like if I'm a Patriots fan, you want to lose every single game.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. It's interesting to me. And whenever I hear Pat Riley's name or I see him, I always think of Bob Ryan sitting at Paul Westphal's pool, sharing libations, as the great Sean McDonough would say, drinking beers with Pat Riley and the rest of the Suns in 1976. I grew up hating the Lakers, Bob. I have immense respect for Pat Riley. And I know he's not perfect. I know he's got a big ego, but I go, man, what that guy has done with multiple organizations really is something else. And he's getting a statue in Los Angeles, and it's about damn time. And quite frankly, I think he's a forgotten man when it comes to the Lakers, and I don't think it's fair.
Well, it goes way back. I mean, into the 80s, and so I can understand that. But his contribution to that team at the time that he took over, and he went from not being in basketball. He's a carpenter off in the offseason at one point, to sitting next to Chick Hearn, right, to then getting the job and presiding over Showtime and bringing a whole spirit and attitude and wisdom to the job. Absolutely. And the most amazing thing about him, though, to me, is the total reinvention of his style, from the Showtime to the thug ball in New York. And I still maintain, I did once ask him, and he didn't want to go all the way there, but I'm sorry, that one play changed his entire life. And that was Kevin McHale taking down Kurt Rambis. Yeah. And Celtics going from that point on to win that series by out physicaling, if that's the verb, but out muscling, pushing around the Lakers. And I'm sure Riley vowed it ain't ever going to happen again under my watch for anywhere. And it hadn't. It never did. And of course, in New York, it went to the point where they were the extreme aggressors. And but anyway, he reinvented himself, and not a lot of guys can do that. And any coaching in any sport the way he did, and he did. And but he's an interesting guy. He's a son. His background, in Albany, he's the son of a minor league manager. His father was a baseball lifer, and he was a overachieving 6'2" tweener who jumped center for Rupp at Kentucky, by the way, and had the journeyman career in the NBA and got a ring with the 71-72. Anyway, no, but I'm rambling. He's a very interesting guy, and then to go to become the executive he did in Miami. I mean, he's one of the most intriguing figures in the whole history of the National Basketball Association. Yes, absolutely. So, and he does deserve to be commemorated in LA.
Yeah, I mean, I just think so many kids these days have no idea what Pat Riley was as a coach. Like, they just think about him building the Miami Heat, right? Like my nephews, like they don't know who Pat Riley was, the coach. And, I still kind of think back to, like, if this guy had continued to coach, which I don't know why did he decide to be an executive instead of, because he was like in his early 60s, I think, when he did that, right?
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what that was all about necessarily. No, I don't. But but
he was such a good coach. Like, people, again, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the younger generation has no idea what this guy did as a coach. They think of him as, which he's done an incredible job of, right, building the culture in that Miami Heat organization to whereas it lasts no matter who's there, right? No matter what the name of the players are. And they've done an incredible job of developing players as well.
I mean, who thought Spoelstra? I mean, was anybody championing Spoelstra? To me, look, he had great players in LA. We all know what he did. But to me, his greatest achievement was Eric Spoelstra's the guy, and we all went, huh?
He identified, no question. He identified that young man at the time, and Spoelstra, who's now, he can start preparing the speech someday in Springfield. He's going to the Hall of Fame, and Riley identified that. He gets full credit for that. There's no question. When I think back to Riley and the fun we had with him, and his way of phrasing things back in the, and when he was in his glory in LA, and helped us look at the game a little differently. And he talked about hidden agendas. Remember that? That's his. And he talked about the disease of me, that you can't have the disease of me. My firm, he talked about how games are decided and these little outbursts, of flurries, which he called skirmishes. Now that conjures up little battles in the Revolutionary War to my head, skirmish, had a skirmish in Lexington. But, he was creative in that regard, in that way. It's a wonderful copy, good, it was, of course, we all rhapsodized, those of us who were around, about how great the 80s were. Just another example of how great the 80s were. We had Pat Riley to deal with.
There's nothing like seeing a game live. I mean, watching it on TV is great. We have all the technology. We have our phones. We have access to everything. But being there in person, it's definitely the way to go. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Some media news that we want to get to. And I cannot remember if this has happened before, but inside the NBA with Ernie, Kenny, Charles, and Shaq from TNT, we'll be moving to ESPN. And what happened was, and I'm not going to get caught up in the minutia of all the legal aspects of Turner and ESPN going after the NBA. But what they said is Turner's going to get international games. And then inside the NBA, which is a Turner product, is going to be shown on ABC and ESPN. I mean, Bob, this is unprecedented.
I'll be honest with you. They're good, but are they that good? I mean, is it
yes.
Yeah, they are, Bob.
Really, tell me. What am I missing? Why?
Oh, they're so entertaining. Like, if I watch NBA, whatever it is, Countdown or whatever on ESPN, I'm bored. I'm ready to fall asleep. I'm tired of listening to some of those dudes. I like Bob Myers, but I can't listen to Stephen A. I can't. He's not funny, and he's not giving me anything. He's not giving me any information. Like Chuck, Shaq, Kenny, yes, they don't know all the names of the players, but they're just icons, and they have fun with each other, and they will be, you know what it is too? They don't give a shit. They will say exactly how they feel.
Absolutely.
Stuff about it, Bob. I get it. Like,
I know what Bob's saying, but
okay.
By the way, you know what, guys? The TV guy will tell you. Here's the key to it all. Kenny anchors it, right? Like Charles will say something, and Ernie's got the greatest job in the world.
He's the best,
and he's the best. He's the perfect guy for it.
Yes,
and he's a very nice man. He's the perfect guy for it. But so Shaq and Charles will do the thing. But whenever Kenny makes a point, you go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Very rarely is Kenny wrong.
Yeah.
Kenny will make a point.
And Chuck will say part of it is too, again, I can't remember where you stand with Chuck. I feel like, Bob, you don't love Chuck over the years, but I will say this. He's like the nicest human being when you meet him in the world. He has time for anybody and everybody. And he says it the way he believes it. Now, he's wrong on a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
but at least I know there's generally not much of an agenda. It's the way which is what I'm all about. I'm wrong about plenty of stuff too, but I'm going to let you know how I feel. I just have more respect for that than the guys that are up there trying to kiss ass. And Stephen A is not that. He's not always, although he's got an agenda. He's got
an agenda. The agenda is him.
Right.
Let me tell you guys, I did a halftime show for 10 years with the Celtics. They're there for one reason, to play commercials. Right. They're there to play commercials. I mean, they are. And, I love Donnie Marshall. He and I had a blast together. But we all knew as soon as that buzzer went at the end of the half, everybody's going to the John. Everybody's going to the fridge. Nobody's sticking around, right? And these guys make you stick around. They make you stick around. Now, the post game's different. The post game, if something big happened, and they're good at this, if Bob's right, like if the post game something went down, you better be ready to explain something, and they'll do that. But halftime it's all for commercials. I'll tell you, it's all for commercials.
Well, I know two couple things. Number one, Jeff, I know I like Charles. I've always liked Charles. And I'll never forget one time I wrote something back when he was with the Sixers, and I couldn't believe that he knew about it. This is the old days. And thank me for saying something nice. I said he was the best all-around rebounder in the league at the time, and he's barely 6'4". And anyway, I like Charles, and I wanted him at the Hall of Fame, and he's always gracious. So no, he's okay. I was just going to say something else, but I forgot.
He's okay. I like that.
Well, no, Bob said okay. I remember this story when Red Auerbach died.
Phenomenon, though, I mean, Gary, this phenomenon is noteworthy. The idea of the what has taken place here. In the old days when the studios ruled the movie world, actors or actresses could be loaned out from one studio to the other for certain productions. I don't, under what basis. This is like calling back those days. This is the 2024 TV answer to what MGM and Paramount would have done in 1953, swapping or Warner Brothers. And I mean, it's amazing. It's more power to if they're that good. Hey, I'm gonna. You know what? They're making me pay more attention now. What have I been missing? This is so okay.
Yeah, they're definitely something. I mean, real quick, I just remember on Charles when Red Auerbach died, he made a point. He walked over and he went over to Tommy and he offered condolences. Offered condolences.
He's just a good human being. He is.
Yeah, but he's not going to do the film work Kenny does. That's why Kenny has the pictures. No. You are tight on time, Jeff. Do you have something to say about LeBron James? And then if you want to duck out.
No, let's go. Let's give Bob the floor.
Bob Love. Okay, let's do that. Bob Love, and I've heard one of the many joys of doing a show with Bob Ryan is I get to hear him talk about all the teams that I grew up watching when I was like 10 years old in Rumford, Maine. And the Bulls were one of them. And Bob Love was always one of those guys that played the Celtics and just could never get over the top. But he passed away, Bob, at 81.
Bob Love was a 6'8" forward who, in the category of all-time players, he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he's in the next level. He's the Hall of Very Good, right at the top of the list of the Hall of Very Good. And maybe he was underrated. Maybe I'm wrong. But let me just say he had a 6-year run from 1969-70 to 74-75 of 20 points plus a game for 6 years in a row. I wonder how many guys in the league. Be interesting to find out how many guys in the history of the league could say that, to have 6 straight years of 20 points a game or more, peaking with 26 in the 71-72. Those Bulls teams, he was the other forward was Chet Love. The guards were Sloan and Wayne Lear, and the center was Tom Boerwinkle. And they were a methodical team coached by Dick Motta that ran a methodical offense and tight defense, and they were miserable to play. You were going to be in for a grinding night every time you played them. Love was a wonderful scorer, mid-range shooter. Of course, nobody needed the three in those days. And he was very efficient. Then that offense centered around those forwards. Just for people to know, those Bulls teams, starting in 1970-71, they went 51-31. They lost to the Lakers in 7. The next year, they went 57-25. They lost to the Lakers in 4. The next year, they went 51-31. They lost to LA in 7 again. And then 7th game was a 3-point game, 95-92. So you can imagine how frustrated they're getting at this point. The next year, they're 54-28. They're swept by Milwaukee. The next year, they're 47-35, and they lose to Golden State in 7. Then game 7 was a 3-point game. You talk about knocking on the door. Right. They're like the Buffalo Bills. But they were a special group. I believe Dick Motta should be in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, Bob Love. Now, one thing I'll quickly. I didn't know when I was my first year covering, and I went into the locker room to talk to in the Bulls locker room to interview him. And I didn't know he was a colossal stutterer, and he was willing to try to work with you. But I was awkward. I was young. I was awkward. I was embarrassed that I had done this. I didn't. I should have. I wish I had known. I didn't know. Maybe you don't even want to bother Bob Love because he would. But he was a known major stutterer. And by the way, nickname Butterbean came from a childhood affinity for, as I said, for Butterbeans. But he should be remembered. It was a good guy. And he was a really efficient player, so R.I.P. Bob Love.
Bob, Ryan, you're the best. Jeff Goodman, until next week, my friend. We will talk later. And you've been brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Gentlemen, see you next week.